Welcome to Grow Fast, Grow Smart, the PI Playbook by Xcelerator, the podcast exclusively designed to help personal injury law firms reach their full potential and serve their clients better. Let's jump in.
Law firms everywhere are feeling the pressure to adopt AI technologies in their practice, and there's very good reason for that. For injury lawyers who know how to use them, these tools offer a distinct competitive advantage. From discovery to deposition prep to jury selection, we're still in the early stages of widespread AI adoption, which means there are opportunities for firms who are committed to integrating AI into their practices. But you might be wondering, what are those opportunities? Which AI tools should you be considering? How to get started leveraging AI at your firm? And today's guest is here to help us find answers. Paul Wilkins is the Chief Litigation and Strategy Officer at Dudley DeBosier, and he's been at the forefront of AI integration for law firms. Paul is a litigation consultant with 35 years of experience as a trial lawyer, and he's also the founder of Focus First, where he helps trial lawyers unlock AI's potential through strategic insight and thought partnership. My name is Seth Sparks, Senior Content Writer at CJ Advertising. Welcome to the show, Paul. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Seth. Thank you for having me. Love to talk about this topic.
Absolutely. Very timely stuff. And I was just wondering if you could start by telling our listeners how you first got involved with AI applications in the legal field.
Our firm has about 60 lawyers, over 60 lawyers, and we've always been very process driven. We've always tried to have a standard by which we expect all the lawyers to develop cases and find out the ways to get the most out of the case for our clients. And so, as you can imagine, trying to get that message across and get 60 different people to understand that is a challenge. Everybody wants to do it right, but it's a difficult process to describe. And so when ChatGPT first revealed itself to me, I guess about 2 years ago, it occurred to me that a lot of what we do could be automated. And I expected at that point that there would be a huge move of people to take advantage of the technology to automate it for other firms and for people. And knowing that we had a unique process and what we thought was fine-tuned over the years, my objective was, well, let's automate our process. Let's see how close I can come to that for our use, not for everybody's, to make everybody do things the way we do, but to help us do it what we know to be the right way to do it routinely and consistently. And so playing around with ChatGPT, it's like anybody, when you first get into it, it just blows you away as to what it can do. It always exceeds your expectations, no matter how simple or complex your request of it is. And so once you kind of get over that and realize that, that there's power there to put to work on specifics, on the particular things that we need done, well, then you start to find ways to fine tune it. And the first way that I came across was the custom GPT tools in ChatGPT, which are basically creating a separate GPT that is trained and fine-tuned on the prompt that you want it to service. And so it allows you basically to use a very fine-tuned prompt over and over without having to recreate it each time. And so I started by creating custom GPTs for almost every step along our litigation workflow, and trying to find ways to build that in, which ones are most useful, which ones can help you get from one step to the next. That was kind of my entry point.
I want to read a quote that I read from you. The quote goes, "We're caught in a crossfire between doomsday predictions of being replaced and a flood of half-baked AI for lawyers tools. I think there's a more rational way forward." So from a high level, how should legal professionals be thinking about the promises of AI?
So I guess the doomsday part was it's going to take our jobs, or it's going to get us all thrown in jail because we filed a brief that had an hallucinated case in it, right? Um, and the other end of that, the half baked, that they're probably a little more than half baked now. That was at the beginning, but the other end of that is obviously with something this powerful and this accessible and trainable, then there's a huge incentive to monetize it. And so, and what we saw early on were some of the big legal tools out there, the legal research databases that we all use, and then some more startups that were trying to train a model to do what lawyers need done, and then sell subscriptions to that model. And essentially, what that was is one of two things. They actually did train models with legal weights. They adjusted the weights of the process so that it was more in tune to what lawyers do, or they just put a wrapper over a foundational model that's essentially, you fill out this blank and we'll have an LLM like ChatGPT do the process for you. Well, we can do that. And so um, my my message all along, and I don't know any reason to change it now, has been there's never been a more powerful tool that is almost free for us to use and put to work, and is one step away from going to work for us. And so 2 years into it, I've been through a lot of quicksand, drug myself out of a lot of rabbit holes that I don't think everybody should go through to be able to use these tools effectively. But uh, where I'm still at is that we don't need help to use it. We just need somebody on our team who knows how to make the request, knows how to craft a prompt to do the things that we need to do with the knowledge that we have in our files.
One of the things that's so interesting to talk to you, Paul, is that a lot of people can talk about the overarching themes of AI, but you're actually in the nitty gritty of it. And so I'd love to dive into some processes with you. And first, when it comes to a process like discovery, what are some practical ways that AI can help personal injury lawyers organize, analyze massive document productions from opposing parties? Is that a fairly good use case of this tool?
Yes, it may be one of the best, most helpful that we can put it through. Um, Discovery is a bottleneck for any firm that has any number of cases. It takes a team of people to break it apart, to find the answers, to put the answers together, to make sure we're giving it back in proper form. That's just our response. But then, when we get the other side's response, what happens most often is we check the box that they answered discovery, and it goes in the file and it sits there until the next thing comes along. And probably the thing that can make the biggest difference for us is for as plaintiff personal injury lawyers is for that to be the mechanism of the advancement of the case, and for us to weaponize those responses and how we organize, parse, and then attack challenge those responses. And so I have a tool that I take a set of discovery responses and upload it, and it's subject to the training and instructions that I gave the tool, and it'll tell me what they told us, indexed in a way that anybody can go back and look to see where to find it, and what's in there. Um, what they didn't tell us, what they either objected to, and it assesses the quality of the objection, but also just keeps a running list of the deficient responses. And so it gives me a report. Here are the deficiencies. Here's what they didn't tell you. Here's why they shouldn't have told you this, and here's why when you go back to challenge the sufficiency of the response, you can tell them why they need to give it to you. I have it create a letter uh, that can go out to council, just a formatted letter, goes right to council. I got your response. Here's where you're deficient. Tell me when you can send the rest of it. A second step letter is a meet and confer. Every state, every jurisdiction has a meet and confer requirement before you file a motion to compel. We didn't get your responses. Here's the letter. We need a meet and confer. Third step is a motion to compel. Each one of those steps is a huge potential for delay in the process of getting to the point where we have their discovery responses. And so by taking these and feeding it through, immediately sending out the deficiencies, and then setting the pace of when are we going to take up the issue of you not having responded adequately, us taking control of that pace is a game changer. It accomplishes everything that we try to do in moving a case forward, which is take control, make the other side uncomfortable, not let them do it on their pace or on their timetable.
I like the fact that, you think about these tools so much, you think about human efficiency and, it saves us time, I think is like the easy sort of low hanging fruit of these tools. But I like how you think of it in terms of weaponizing it, in terms of speeding up a potential case timeline. And it sounds like these tools offer a lot of promise on that front.
Yes, yeah, and the bigger cases are going to have a lot of documents. Your goal in a commercial trucking case is to get a lot of documents, right? If you don't have a lot of documents, then you need to keep working on getting documents. And so, another benefit, another good thing about the advancements that we're seeing in these models is the context window limitations. Early on, if you put 3 or 4 PDFs into a prompt, you might get a limit. You've exceeded the limit. You can't go on. Even worse, in ChatGPT, there was a pretty small context window, and you could put more documents with more tokens, which is how it reads the documents. It would take more tokens than its limits of reading, but it wouldn't tell you that it was only reading part of what you put in. And so you had to know what the limit was, and you had to make sure you didn't feed it too fast. But now the windows are getting bigger, and so we can put in a lot of documents. And the ability, the Gemini 2.5 Pro model, I love that. ChatGPT now with the 4.0 model, the 0.03 Pro, they hold on to that context longer. They retain a memory of your conversation deeper into the conversation, and so you're not getting off topic as quickly as we did before.
Thinking also about other processes that can be useful in maybe on the deposition front, and specifically the ways that attorneys can prepare more effective deposition questions, anticipate potential answers. Is there also opportunity on that front as well?
Yeah, we all spend a lot of time and have opportunity to train under people that have perfected the processes that we have to use as tools of our trade. The reptile processes. We all get the notices every day of ideas from the experts, and so taking those ideas and distilling that to a set of instructions that will be the engine for these tools has never been easier. We have the books, we have the materials, you have all the things that you've gathered over the years. I use those to train the models. And so, I have a model that, over the years I've developed a way to create a hit list for depositions, to go into a deposition and have a set of hits that I'm trying to get from that witness, just broad topics and but things that need to be addressed. And so I've trained a model on what to look for and what needs to go into that hit list. There's a lot of people that are very good at cross-examination. Roger Dodd, Philip Miller. We have Adam Savoy in our firm is as good as any, and so I take the things that they've used to teach others and examples of how they go about cross-examining witnesses, and I train that same model to create cross-examination chapters on how to lead the witness from a broad point to the specific point that you're trying to get to in that hit. And so those are processes that need to be brought to bear. And anytime you prepare for a deposition, it's very hard to get to a point where you can sit down and devote the brain power to do that. And so to have this brain power there at you, working alongside you to help guide you through, not replace, the what thought you're going to put into it and your strategy, but to fortify it and augment it and be a way to create a sort of a scaffolding around the process so you can build it.
Yeah, I've seen you write about frameworks, that using these things, and it sounds like a good use case for that. You're building, like you said, a second brain. And then you mentioned something else there that I kind of want to pick up on too, which is not replacing that critical aspect of it. It reminds me of another quote of something that I saw that you wrote online too, about the risks of law firms using AI to do all the work. The quote that you wrote, I thought was really compelling. The lawyer who hasn't wrestled with the facts themselves, who hasn't felt the frustration of a dead end before finding a breakthrough, who hasn't lived with the case file, that lawyer can't stand up to the test of persuading others to find in favor of their client. They have the answer, but they don't have the understanding. They can't pivot. They have no instinct. I think that highlights such a crucial point of AI integration. And it makes me wonder, what are the biggest mistakes that you could see PI firms making when they first try to integrate AI into their practice? Is there that instinct to become over-reliant on it?
Definitely is. The first mistake is not trying it, being intimidated or coming up with reasons not to try it. Don't be the last one to come around to it. But on the other side is over reliance, right? And so, like I said, every response that you get from a AI conversation exceeds your expectations. Is beyond what you thought you would get. Well, the simplest prompt to the most complex, and so it's easy to get way ahead of yourself, and from that become complacent that, all right, that work's done, right? I'll save this somewhere where I can come back to it, but I would have, been days and days trying to go through the steps that this thing just went through to get to a point where I really want to be, and I'm glad we're there thanks to the AI. Well, it hasn't done anything, right? All it's done is given you a roadmap. It's not actually executed any part of that. It hasn't taken a deposition. It hasn't gotten a discovery request out. And so the risk is seeing it as a final product. And, there's never been, no matter what era we're talking about, the support that lawyers get from paralegals, from machines, or whatever, there's never been one that we could say, all right, this means I don't have to do my job. The best paralegal in the world working on your case alongside you doesn't mean that you don't have to do your job as a lawyer. And so not keeping that perspective of, I'm still the lawyer, I still have to be the human in the loop, and I have this AI in the loop now. And so allowing the tool to be the AI in the loop, which is run by the human, run by the lawyer, who still has the responsibility to the client and to the court to do their job, to sign off on the product. And so, it takes a minute to get to where you get over how comprehensive and well thought out and pretty the response is, right? and then you just have to make yourself get back in it. I set up a lot of these tools with a checkpoint that and where it tells me I have to talk to it about what ground we've covered. I have to answer questions about things we've already covered and things it's given me to check to make sure I've read it, and check to make sure that I'm in the loop, right? And that may not be necessary with everybody, but it's a reminder.
Thinking to get back to processes, talked about depositions. We've talked about a lot of prep that you can do with discovery, case law research. How is AI changing the way, and what are the opportunities there to find relevant precedents, build stronger legal arguments? Is that a fertile ground for AI as well?
Yeah, that's probably the most controversial use case right now because of the stories they keep coming. Lawyers filing briefs and motions that cite a case that doesn't exist, and so again, you have to understand where how the tool that you're using works. What is the source of knowledge, and so the Westlaw and Lexis tools, they've added AI layers, AI wrappers on top of their database. And when I say wrappers basically just creating a particular interface that makes you communicate with a model in the context of whatever the tool does, legal research, medical record summaries, whatever. So the wrapper sets the context and and guides the conversation, right? And so they've added that to their legal database, which I've always thought, those databases are probably the most valuable databases to lawyers that there are. And when they connect that up with AI, ways that AI can communicate with, process, and generate content solely from that source, well, now we got something, right? And so the key is that you're using a tool in a way that it doesn't have it can't make up things as and recite to it as a source of knowledge. And so it's called retrieval augmented generation, meaning you're limiting the knowledge base of that tool to knowledge that you give it, whether it's Westlaw's database or your file. And so you can take tools like Notebook LM, that is a retrieval augmented generation tool. And you have to create a source of documents. You upload documents into a notebook, and it can only rely on those documents to fuel its analysis. And so using the databases, you're not going to make up cases. Now, do they read the cases right? Do they reason and formulate arguments the way that we need them to? Not yet. But if you have the case law and the legal authorities that are going to show up in a brief or in motion, take a copy of those documents, upload those files, the actual legal authorities into a notebook, and then tell the notebook LM, I need to formulate an argument that or prepare a motion that distinguishes the cases that the other side relies on, and I've marked those as such, and then it applies the cases that support my argument. And my experience has been if you take the time to train it properly and have that context there, you're 85%, 90% of the way to a final product just with that one prompt. You're never 100%.
Yeah. It goes back to the importance, like you're saying, of having that human in the loop.
Yes.
It seems like it's the more delicate, the more sensitive the information that you're getting, the more important that becomes. But one last process standpoint here I wanted to get your thoughts on is just from a client service perspective, how AI tools can help firms communicate more effectively with clients throughout the case life cycle. Have you seen benefits of that in legal practices?
Yes, I'm more of a litigation process. Clients are certainly in that workflow, but the communication with the client is, again, something you can train your workflow, whatever tools you use, you can set as a backdrop. One of the most powerful parts of these tools now is that you can add in custom instructions just on the settings tab, not on a particular chat, but just a set of instructions you expect it to follow in every conversation you have. Some have a bigger window than others, and so, but I have put in those instructions, find opportunities for me to communicate what's going on to the client to help them keep up with what's going on, but also get a sense that we're working hard on their case. And so it'll every now and then you ought to share this with the client, right? And it's we don't always think about that. Too often an afterthought, but clients like to know what you're working on. They like to see that you're working on their case.
So that makes me think about some of the other aspects that maybe this could be good at. Maybe an AI different tools that AI could be good at. So we're thinking about the role, and you talked about maybe shortening case timelines, streamlining things, especially by streamlining processes like discovery. Are there any predictive abilities, the ability to predict case timelines so you can keep clients informed and set realistic expectations? Are we there yet with these tools from your experience?
I think predictive is kind of a lot of people offer tools as predictive. A lot of people describe the process as predictive. I think anybody that trains these models will tell you it's not. It can't predict the future. It can't predict the outcome of, say, a case. Obviously, what they do is they look in the past. They're trained on everything that's in the internet or everything that's on Twitter or everything, whatever source of knowledge they're trained on. And so when you give it a prompt, it basically takes all the weights from all that training and predicts what's the next, what's the response to this, meaning what words line up that are the most likely next part of the sequence of the content that it's been given. And so I know a lot of firms are out there using AI, using the the processing of data that we get from focus groups and things like that, and saying we can predict the outcome. We can predict based on what we learned, what a jury will award in a case, or what a certain type of juror will do in this case, which I think is hard. They're not people. The AI is not people. It doesn't have the emotional response, emotional reactions, the ability to argue, to take up an argument, defend an argument, or pursue one head to head. And so, those things aren't really going on. And so it's any prediction you get is just based on the way the world has responded to this in the past. I predict that the response would hold here.
You mentioned focus groups, and I know that's always a big priority for you, something that you talk a lot about. It sounds like there could be, just reading some of your content, that there could be opportunities to sort of augment focus groups. Again, not as a replacement, but as a way to make that process of using focus groups even more robust through AI. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. And so I use my businesses doing focus groups and telling lawyers what people think of their case. Quite often it's different than how they think people think of their case. But beyond that, now what do we do with this information? Not just, here's what they think, good luck. But using these AI tools first to allow easy access to the focus group process, meaning, a lot of times lawyers know that a focus group will make a difference in a case and help, but I don't have the time to get ready to present the case to the focus group. They equate it with getting ready for trial. That may be the case at in the end phases when you're doing mock trials to see how our final product will play in front of a jury. But there's so much benefit to doing focus groups in the early going, just to hear how other people see the case, just to test an early theory, just to test an early theme, or to to have the group tell you what the theme of your case is. And the obvious benefit there is now I can go into depositions and discovery and build that case, or I can bring in the right experts to answer, to fill these knowledge gaps that focus groups struggle with. And so I've made it easy to get it started by just give me your raw materials, give me whatever you have right now, and I have tools that will parse all of that, will categorize facts, extract facts, start to build the scaffolding of the case, and now let's add the actual finishing touches through the process of focus groups and discovery, and so on the other side of the focus groups, I can give. Here's discovery that you need to go and send out today. Here's the next deposition that you need to take. And here are the cross-examination chapters you need to ask that witness to get back to where this focus group said you should be. Here's experts that you need to bring in that you may not have thought of. And here's a list of candidates. All of that's just, half a day's work processing through AI tools to get actual weaponized documents and tools that lawyers can take and go and make their case better. But then in the second part, and I think maybe what you had in mind is, can we just do away with people as part of the focus group process, right? And I've done a lot of virtual focus groups where I create personas. I think there's two ways to do it. You can have it create agents and have those agents deal with each other, but that's above my pay grade. But I could create personas with several layers, lots of layers of characteristics, personality, cultural influences, add in as much as all the things that when we get real people in, that we document about that person and compare those characteristics to their responses. And so I build in people with those characteristics, and just the way they're trained, it should have a good idea of how somebody with this mix of characteristics would respond to this, what they're shown. And so the early stages of focus groups, I think that's valuable. I think I compare it. I do controls where I'll do a live group, and then just to test, I'll create a virtual group, looks just like that live group, give it the same presentation, and I get a lot of the same ideas and same feedback. And so what you're trying to get early on is not what's an outcome that all these people would be able to vote in favor of, but I want everybody's individual take on it, and let's see how many data points we can build to see what influences the way people view our case.
Oh, that's so fascinating.
It's fun. It's fun.
I can imagine looking at the output of that, like looking at and comparing it to the real focus group must be just sort of, there has to be moments of just kind of delight of what you're seeing, that like, wow, we developed this persona and now we're seeing feedback that kind of reflects all of the detail that you gave it.
And that's a 2-day turnaround, and so for the cost and the the ease of getting it accomplished, it's certainly worth the effort to just take into consideration what they're telling us.
So zooming out again, looking ahead, how do you see all of this? Like, you've talked about the evolution of these tools already. Like, they've already come a long way. The restrictions that you used to have when giving it information, those are less and less of a roadblock every day. How do you see these things reshaping competition for personal injury firms? Like, people watching or listening to this, what do they need to be doing to stay ahead of the curve on this?
I think it's a lot like what we needed to be doing in staffing our firms from before this, which is you need to have somebody in the group who knows the case, who knows how to organize the case, who knows where to find things when the need arises. You need to have some assurance when you get together, when lawyers sit to strategize and to make decisions. Being a personal injury lawyer is about making decisions, making choices. And so the better those choices are informed, the better the decision, the quality of the decision will be. And so, unfortunately, there's a lot of times we rely on a lot of people to be that source of information. And there's a lot of times we get the wrong, misinformation, right? Somebody doesn't know, they don't want to tell you they don't know, and they hold it out as I can assure you this is the right answer. Well, it's not. And so to have a member of the team that has all the knowledge in hand, knows what's in there, can point you to the truth with just a simple request. I think that's got to be, an essential use of these tools, knowledge management, and then as they add layers of reasoning, it's there's papers that come out. Apple comes out and says, well, they don't think. Turns out they don't think. They don't reason. Well, you're not going to convince me of that. I've seen enough of thinking and reasoning that's been beneficial to my analysis to say, well, if they're not, then they're still way ahead of me, right?
Mm.
And so in there, and now we're seeing papers that talk about, well, people that use AI don't. It turns out they don't retain anything the content that they generate. Students that wrote essays just using AI couldn't tell you what was in the essay, which is could be true, but and that the brain activity is lower when you're using just AI. Well, of course it is, and so we're going to learn. I think we're just scratching the surface, and I think we're going to learn where the human comes back into it, and where I think if somebody uses AI exclusively, well, that's going to reveal itself, and everybody who relies on that person will say, well, we don't need that person anymore, right? That person's not adding anything to it. So I think we're going to find a way to get people back in the loop or stay in the loop, and those people are going to be the most valuable people that on your team. Know how to use the tool, know what it can do, can't do, but also bring in the decision makers at the right stage and allow that the human decisions to be the product of these tools.
You wrote a really interesting piece, I guess, blog on tech stacks. And for those who are listening or watching, and tech stack is just sort of the combination of tools, technology that you use typically to do a job or to do work. I think one of the things that I noticed when reading that is an aversion to sort of like being like, these are the tools that guarantee you success. It's more about which tools are you comfortable with, which tools do you have experience with. So as much as I would love to ask you what your tech stack is, I'm going to, out of respect for your thoughts on that, I won't. But I'm curious, is that your perspective on it? Is it a, look, it's not a prescription of tools that's magically going to do it. It's about your experience of rolling up your sleeves and getting in there and doing it.
Yeah, it changes. There's this definite stack, and it changes week to week. I'll get to a point where the tool I'm using, it's you don't get to the end of the road with it, but you realize there's a limitation. I don't know how to make it do the thing I want it to do. Well, you get up the next morning and that tool's maker announces, we've added the ability to do what Wilkins was trying to do last night, or one of the other ones does. And so, and that's why to me, it's hard for the people that are selling, the third parties that are selling AI as a tool, it's impossible to keep up with the things that they're able to do. The deep research function that they've all added. I got on, we've struggled for so long to help everybody benefit from the knowledge that some of us have about brain injuries and how to diagnose, how to spot it, how to treat it. What does it mean in someone's life? It's hard to explain that, and so I asked one of the deep research tools to give me a paper that explains it start to finish in a way that every practitioner can use to go and apply in their cases. And it's an awesome paper. It took it 10 minutes, well thought out, but it's a tool that for 15 years we've thought one of us needs to come take the time to do this, right? And so anytime you think of a part of what you do, and the challenge that you face, and you can't get past it, put one of these tools to work researching it and giving you the answer. And so the ones that I use right now, because they are the ability to parse the documents that I give them, the ability to follow instructions, is as precise as they've always been in following instructions. Some are better than the others. So follow the instructions that I give it, and then put it all back together and communicate it in a way that's digestible to us. Gemini 2.5 Pro now, which I think you have to be on one of the paid subscriptions to get. ChatGPT o3 Pro. Those are as close to having a human intellect involved, I think, is we have out there. Notebook LM is always great. They all have some kind of image generation. There's lots of image generation apps out there, but these foundational models are going to put them out of business because they can generate images very precisely now. And so I put in a operation report. A guy had a fractured ankle and went through surgery to rebuild it. And so I put that in, said, created a medical illustration that shows the injury that he had and how they fixed it. And that's thousands of dollars we used to spend on that. And it gives you a usable illustration. And a lot of it you have to say, wait a minute, you got a tendon that runs through his heel and outside his body. We need to fix that, but it'll fix it. And so those kind of features just kind of round out the experience and allow us to take the knowledge we have and turn it into a case that anybody can understand and be compelled by.
Fascinating stuff. I appreciate you sharing your expertise with us on this. If you're watching this video on YouTube, you've enjoyed this, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on a podcast, then follow us wherever you listen. Paul Wilkins, thank you so much. This is fascinating. I hope to have a chance to talk to you again as these tools evolve, and as your knowledge of this is just so useful for this. I'm sure this was super helpful for folks today. So I appreciate you joining us.
And if you want prompts or products or anything to get a better idea, to find me, and I'll share what I have.
Where can we find you, Paul?
Paul at focusfirst.ai. Website's focusfirst.ai, so just Paul at focusfirst.ai.
That's great. Again, thanks for your time today, Paul.
Okay. Thanks, Seth.
That's a wrap on another eye-opening look into the personal injury world. Thanks for listening to Grow Fast, Grow Smart, the PI Playbook by Xcelerator.